What you don't want to go out there, which is why I'm commenting. The only reason why I'm commenting is that somehow funds were misappropriated or went missing. I saw some headline in one media that is suggesting that funds disappeared without a trace, giving an impression that somehow somebody pocketed this money and went off with it.
The Auditor General has found that the Ministry of Health has made payment of some $337 million to 7 hotels, and only $44 million they were paid out to one hotel, one of those hotels. Can you speak to the discrepancy, sir, in your ministry?
Right. So I have taken note of the Auditor General's report, and I think that in keeping with how our system works, it's important to note reports of these kinds and to take them seriously. The process formally works that where the report now is taken to PAC, chaired by Opposition Member Julian Robinson, and where the Chief Accounting Officer, the Permanent Secretary, Dunstan Bryan, will have an opportunity with his team to respond to the report. And I think that's the appropriate place to deal with some of the concerns that have been raised in the Auditor General report. So I'm not going to comment with any specifics. Beyond saying, however, that my interpretation of the report is that the Auditor General has not claimed any inappropriate or misappropriation, I should say, of funds. And that's very important to note, because there is always a room for speculation and so on. What the Auditor General spoke to, as I understand it in the report, is the issue of whether or not a process was followed where contracts in the tangible way, how contracts are written, were written. Let's wait on the PAC. Let's allow the team to respond. I've had a meeting with the team. I've read the report and also heard and seen the responses. COVID was a difficult period, very, very difficult period. There are many decisions that were taken on the spur of the moment because lives were on the line. And in the case of the hotels and the accommodation, if you recall the context of persons on ships waiting to be taken off and so on. So there are a lot of issues. Now, this is not to excuse away what the report says and learning from those experiences and making things better. But when the time comes at the PAC, I believe the team will provide an appropriate response. And I will await that. I would recommend that we await that process, which hopefully won't be too long from now.
So Mr. You would not want to speak to the fact that these contracts were not written and these monies were paid out to these hotels that were responsible.
Well, again, I think ultimately it's going to be around the two issues. One, of course, whether the process was followed. I think the Auditor General is claiming that the process wasn't followed. What the Auditor General is not disputing, as I understand it anyway, is that the monies were spent for a service that was provided in the context of a crisis. And I think it's important, because what you don't want to go out there, which is why I'm commenting, the only reason why I'm commenting, is that somehow funds were misappropriated or went missing. I saw some headline in one media that is suggesting that funds disappeared without a trace, giving an impression that somehow somebody pocketed this money and went off with it. And that is certainly not the case, and that's not my interpretation of what the report says. So as it relates to whether or not contracts were written, how contracts are interpreted, let the process take its course, allow the Permanent Secretary, the Ministry, to meet in the context of the PAC. I'm sure the PAC will probe, as it is their right to do, and as it is the Auditor General's right to comment. I believe in that process. So let that process work, and then let us see what the results will be.